So, this is the crazy story of 9 Russian hikers who suddenly disappeared in mysterious and strange circumstances at the Dyatlov Pass in Russia in 1959. This group of hikers that died over 60 years ago were left with their eyes and their tongues missing in what was a sadistic scene of carnage that was witnessed as their bodies lay there with a memory of some kind of savage and untimely ending for all 9 of them. 1 victim had major skull damage, 2 had severe chest trauma, and another had a small crack in his skull. 4 of the bodies were found lying in running water in a creek, and 3 of those 4 had damaged soft tissue of the head and face. 2 of the bodies had missing eyes, 1 had a missing tongue, and 1 even had missing eyebrows. The injuries of the original 9 were so bizarre that investigators and amateur sleuths alike have attributed their deaths to everything from aliens to the Yeti. Then more than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass was once again at the centre of a disturbing mystery, as recently more tourists, largely from Moscow, have also gone missing from the exact same location in 2021. These hikers and tourists had heard about the group that died there 60 years ago, the ones with their eyes and tongues missing, and they also decided that they wanted to make the trek there too. And they, like us now, have also learned of the strange circumstances surrounding the Dyatlov Pass incident. They had set out to see the area for themselves and paid their respects to the fallen hikers, and as such they were supposed to return from their outing on February the 10th, but they never returned. The confusion and panic over the missing hikers was only heightened by the fact that they reportedly failed to officially register their movements in the area with the proper authorities, and instead just decided to take a trek up the mountains and to the Dyatlov Pass. However, a day after the first report surfaced, a correspondent from one Russian media outlet stated that the group had been tracked down and had safely made their exit from the area. Reportedly, they had encountered difficulties due largely to severe weather that delayed their check-in, and that set off the panic. But the aura and the haunting mystery surrounding this latest incident was sinister when the thoughts of the 9 hikers were still hanging over everyone's heads in the background, and how they had met their grisly demise. Now, while these reports are limited and not widely circulated as of now, it appears that the hikers may have avoided a grim fate like the 9 who perished at the Dyatlov Pass more than 60 years before. The original 9 hikers had set out to reach the peak of Oterton, which is a mountain in the northern Urals of Soviet Russia, at the end of January 1959, and at that time they were led by 23-year-old hiker Igor Alexeyevich Dyatlov, the name of which the mountain pass has since been named the Dyatlov Pass. The other 8 were also largely experienced hikers, mainly from the Ural Polytechnical Institute. Dyatlov had told his sports team that he would send them a telegram as soon as he returned, but they received no word, and then soon after weeks had passed, friends and loved ones began to worry about them. It was on February the 20th, 1959 that a search party was launched to try and find Dyatlov and the 8 others. Now the investigation would take a bizarre and a shocking turn. Investigators soon found the hikers' tent, but it was destroyed, and then even more disturbing was the fact that it seemed like someone had cut the tent open from the inside, and this in itself was a bizarre discovery on its own, and as such only became more bizarre considering that the temperatures at night could plunge to -22. So why would someone be cutting the tent open like it was? It made no logical sense to anyone. Meanwhile, investigators found pairs of shoes at the scene and footprints made by bare feet leading away from the campsite and into the frigid, cold and unrelenting wilderness. This raised a chilling and highly disturbing question as to why such experienced hikers would be so desperate to leave their own tent in the middle of a Russian winter's night that they'd cut their way out and flee into the forest without even getting dressed. From here, investigators then stumbled upon a series of strange and grisly clues, with each one more baffling than the next. It was now when they found the bodies of 2 hikers wearing nothing but underwear, with one hiker with a strange brown-purple complexion and grey liquid dripping from his mouth. Other bodies found next to them had cuts on their hands and branches around their bodies, as if they'd desperately tried to climb the nearby trees, but to no avail. The bodies were undressed or wearing mismatched clothing, and some had injuries that hinted at inexplicably vicious, savage and life-ending gruesome violence. It took investigators another 2 months to find the rest of the party, and with the remaining bodies only deepening the shocking carnage that they had found, and then the deep-seated mystery surrounding what had really happened. One of the hikers was missing her tongue, eyes and part of her lips, as well as facial tissue and a fragment of her skull bone, and yet, despite such baffling, horrific and macabre evidence, the Soviet authorities swiftly closed the investigation, and that was that. It was then officially noted that the hikers' deaths were due to an unknown natural force, which made no sense because they had their eyes and their tongues ripped out and had the devastating injuries that they did. Now, this conclusion then fanned the flames of conspiracy theories for decades to come, and theories that have still not abated since the incident. An early theory suggested that the 9 hikers may have been killed by an avalanche, with the absolute disarray of their campsite, their mismatched clothing, and coupled with the blunt force trauma injuries supporting this theory. But it is known that the victims of an avalanche usually die of asphyxiation, suffocation, and such related injuries. However, in this case, there was just no physical evidence of an avalanche or any precedent of avalanche activity in the area, according to research that was later conducted. Another theory that popped up was that the hikers had been attacked by the native Mansi people, and again this too fell by the wayside, as the Mansi people were largely peaceful and there was no evidence of an attack by them ever before and in such brutal circumstances. Then there were slightly stranger theories which suggested that the hikers had died in a Yeti attack, or perhaps aliens were involved, or that the possibility that the hikers had been the victims of a Soviet experiment, or maybe someone in the group had lost their mind and murdered the others, and so the speculation list marches onwards. So what do you think really happened in this incident? What theory are you siding with? Please let me know in the comments below, as this one has continually baffled me. I mean, I keep going back to it to make a firm and definitive conclusion that satisfies my curiosity, to help me understand what really happened, as I really am stumped thus far.